throughout most of the second half, it felt like we had loads of huff and puff, but no real quality. You know, there was one where Amari, he side-footed it wide. A lot of the fans around me thought it was a corner, thought that there was a block there, that it should have been a corner, but
Well, I've watched
he'd
it back. It takes a massive deflection, Tom. It's as clear
right.
a day
Yeah,
a corner, and how the officials have
yeah,
missed that, I
yeah.
do not know.
Well, and what I don't like doing is blaming officials, because I'll be honest, look, from where I was sat, I thought it looked like it might have taken a deflection, but I couldn't see for definite from where I was sat. So I jumped on the bandwagon with everyone saying that's got to be a corner, but I couldn't see definitively myself. But, you know, it was a massive, massive chance. I think the Davison one was an awkward one. It's a Bristow cross, isn't it? It's a Bristow cross through to Davison's head. And it's an awkward position to score from, I think. But, yeah, he doesn't fully commit. I thought that was another poor game. I don't want to highlight him because I thought there were probably 8 or 9 players on the pitch who had fairly poor games. But yeah, there was plenty of huff and puff. I just felt like we weren't cutthroat enough in the final third. And in the end, unfortunately, as much as there was huff and puff, I feel like Notts County breezed through it in the end. Like I said, I'm not gonna overreact from it, but I do think that, you know, we maybe it was almost trying too hard. We walking home from the game, my friends and I, we were talking about it and how we were forcing passes that weren't there to be played. We were rushing passes when they didn't need to be played. We were trying to play first-time balls. Our first touch was poor. The ball was bouncing up to their knees. They were, you know, Whittaker in particular was getting more and more frustrating for me as the game went on, because he kept flicking his foot at a quick pass that just wasn't quite there. The further up the pitch we got, the more we tried to sort of rush things, and it just, there wasn't a great deal of fluidity to our attacks. But it's one of those days we write it off as a bad one. I think for me the most frustrating thing was that the players were miscontrolling and mispassing it so often. They're not going to do that every week. That's not a tactical issue. That's not the players not being good enough. That's just a really bad day for the lads. That's just, you know, the boys not being able to play the basic football. That happens. You see the best teams. You know, we saw Stockport come to us and get trounced 4-0 the other season. We've seen it many times from previous teams. You know, sometimes a good team just can't function. And today it felt like the basics just weren't clicking for us. Like I say, I don't even want to name individuals really, because there was probably 8 or 9 players I could say they were below what I was expecting, but, you know, below par. For me, probably Brough had a good game till maybe later on, and I thought Leo Connor had a fairly decent game. Beyond that, I couldn't really tell you anyone else who was lightning. But yeah, it's not the end of the world, but, you know, we are going to need something in that final third, and obviously, you know, with Harvey Saunders leaving the club recently, hopefully that's signs to say that there is going to be action at the top end of the field in the transfer market soon.
Well, those people who are watching the clip or have seen the clip on social media will see that Tom has put his handle tonight as Harvey Saunders the bench for East today, and within 2 minutes have managed to score what is his first league goal in nearly a year, which is ever so Tranmere, isn't it? Leaving the club having not been able to put the ball in the back of the net, and then suddenly finding your shooting boots as soon as you leave the Wirral. And I don't think anything highlighted Tranmere's desperation for a striker more than what we saw in that final half hour today. Davison hauled off having missed that header. Connor Jennings thrown up front, and I felt so sorry for Connor because he was on an absolute hide into nothing. All that we seemed to do was smash the ball long up to him, hanging it in the air. He was up against 3 decent-sized Notts County centre-halves, and to be fair to Connor, he won a lot of headers. Problem is he had no one around him who was offering any support, and I just thought he was on a hide into nothing. If you want to get the best out of Connor Jennings, you have him sitting just off your striker, or you get him in and around the penalty area, and Tranmere didn't offer him either of those opportunities today to do what we know he can do, which is pull strings with good passing or accurate crossing and finishing. It is absolutely clear that a striker has to be brought in before that deadline on Monday, and today showed that more than anything we've seen this season.
Yeah, and I've seen a few, obviously having been away for the start of the season, I've kept up to date on Twitter with people's comments. I've listened to the show, and a few people have been quite high on Josh Davison and saying, you know, he's looking better. I thought he looked much sharper back end of last season. I'm still willing to give him more time because, you know, I think he's better than he showed last season. But I thought he had a really poor game today. The ball wouldn't stick to him. He was not a goal threat. He wasn't linking up. And you could say part of the issue is he didn't have enough teammates near him to link up with. But, I thought he had a poor game. I felt when Connor came on, and I was of the opinion at the start of the season that Connor would play a very, very small part in the team this season. But when he came on, within the first 5 minutes, he did more than what Josh Davison did all game, really. So, he was on a hide to nothing. I agree with you, though. I think he should be playing as one of the two supporting players, the two attacking midfielders, rather than the front focal point. And hopefully, at the end of the transfer window, hopefully we can bring in that focal point striker so that there's less pressure on Josh Davison, and so that we can use Connor Jennings in the way that he needs to be used, sparingly, but also in his intelligent sort of attacking midfield areas rather than being that front man. Because I also felt sorry for Connor, but I thought he did a good job when he came on. And you could see, players coming off the bench. As much as I'm hearing positive things about a lot of these players, I've seen Harris today come off the bench and I wasn't impressed with what I saw. I'm not tarnishing him in any way. I'm not going to judge him overly just based on that one game. But that's the first time I've seen him, and I was not particularly impressed with him at all as an attacking player. So, bringing in a striker is absolutely essential. It's incredibly frustrating that Harvey's gone to Eastleigh and scored on his debut. But let's be honest, I myself, as a Harvey fan, will hold my hands up and say, if he'd have stayed here, he wouldn't have scored for us. He's gone and scored for them. He needs that fresh start, so good on him. But he wouldn't have scored for us because he's just, he's in a rut. It's just very Tranmere for him to go elsewhere and score. But if we can bring in that focal point striker, it will change the way. Will it change the way we play? Possibly not, but it will change how I feel about the squad. Because at the moment, I'm still thinking there aren't enough goals in that team. Once County pulled it back to 1-1, personally, I didn't feel like we were going to score a goal. Even though we had little moments, I never felt like there was a goal there. So, we need more goals in the team, and it's not an easy fix. I do like how we've managed to spread goals through the team so far, but Amari is the dominant figure when it comes to goals. And again, today, he's been moved into wing back, only for maybe 10 minutes or so, but he's been shifted back into wing back. We need more goal threats. We need goals, from a focal point striker as soon as possible.